Good afternoon, everyone, and a very good morning to all our guests in Israel. A warm welcome to our friends and partners from the media, as well as representatives from the National Healthcare Group, Trendlines, and Enterprise Singapore. Thank you for joining us today for the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between the National Healthcare Group and Trendlines Medical Singapore. I'm Eunice from Trendlines, and I'll be your MC for this afternoon. Over the last 3 years, the National Healthcare Group and Trendlines have forged a strong friendship and alliance, and today we welcome you to witness the renewal and extension of this close partnership. We will start off today's program with opening remarks from 5 of our distinguished speakers, followed by the MOU signing, and finally Q&A from the audience. At any point in time, please feel free to post your questions using the Q&A function, and it will be addressed during the Q&A segment. In the next couple of moments, I would like to introduce the following speakers in turn of speaking order. May I request each speaker to turn on your video and unmute yourselves as I introduce you. They are Mr. Eric Low, Chief Executive Officer, Trendlines Medical Singapore, Professor Thomas Liu, Clinical Director, Center for Medical Technologies and Innovations, CMTI, and Group Chief Data and Strategy Officer, National Healthcare Group, Mr. Johnny Teo, Executive Director, Food, Healthcare and Biomedical Enterprise Singapore, Dr. Benjamin Seet, Deputy Group Chief Executive Officer, Education and Research, and Group Chief Research Officer, National Healthcare Group, and last, Mr. Todd Dollinger, Chairman and CEO of the Trendlines Group and Chairman, Trendlines Medical Singapore. Now, without further ado, Eric, please.
Thank you, Eunice, and good afternoon, Dr. Benjamin Sid, Professor Thomas Liu, Johnny, and colleagues, friends, distinguished guests. Thank you for making time this afternoon to join us, and for our Israel guests, in the morning to join us at this signing ceremony of a renewed MOU that was established some 3 years back. It was roughly about the same time 3 years ago that we established our first MOU with the National Healthcare Group. And since that time, we started a journey. And might I add that it's a very exciting, and over the 3 years has been a very, very fruitful journey for us. And I believe we can say the same of our NHG colleagues. Through this MOU, we work very closely with a very dedicated team in the NHG to identify clinical needs, collaborated on refining, some of the creative ideas that we have harbored, and together we decided on how to develop the solutions, and of course, with the main aim of having these solutions eventually commercialized and deploying it for the purpose of improving the quality of life for our patients. And to date, I must say that this partnership has resulted in 9 of our portfolio companies having a very close collaborative agreement forged with the NHG team. And some 3 of these companies would actually be progressing into clinical studies in the months, if not for the COVID, I must add, it already should have started. But that does not mean that, we would stop at just these 3 companies. In fact, all the companies we are collaborating with NHG has and certainly will progress into the area of clinical testing to validate, the development, and of course, to establish these solutions that will be capable of reaching to address the needs of our patients. We are encouraged by the hard numbers, obviously, but more importantly, over the 3 years, we are encouraged as we see how the physicians that we partner with, and as well as working with our portfolio companies, are truly dedicated in championing innovation, I must say very effectively and very efficiently, with a single aim of making sure that the solution can become very useful to address the unmet clinical needs that we started off with. And to that, I must say that, we are really very happy that the physicians has been so dedicated in this whole process, and the willingness and the ability to engage with our startup companies right from the start is really something that has benefited many of our startup companies. especially providing the clinical perspective and combining that with the technical development capabilities of the companies. We believe this has added a great deal of value to each of our portfolio companies. The spirit to integrate innovative ideas to clinical solutions is an attribute that we continue to see in the physicians we work with. And we are really hoping that with the renewed MOU, this can only go further in developing more solutions that will be relevant in addressing the unmet clinical needs. But more importantly, also allowing us in this case to extend our partnership into other areas, as we would be outlining later on some of the key areas where both parties are very much aligned in developing. Obviously, words cannot have been enough to say that in this whole partnership, we also are very thankful for our friends in NHG, particularly the Center for Medical Technology and Innovation, who has done a great job in making sure that both ends of the entities, or both entities, have their situation met. Now, like in all partnership, I will be probably not factual to say that there are challenges. There are obviously challenges in making sure that both parties' interests are taken care of. But what we are really very happy is that we never consider having a win-lose situation in any sense. And both entities are always established in a mindset of making sure that we have a win-win strategy. And to date, the 9 companies are testament to a very happy collaborative arrangements that we see. And we are very confident as we move forward, there'll be many more such collaborative agreements that we'll be happily engaging ourselves with. So riding on this wonderful partnership, Mr. Todd Dollinger later will share with you some of the new initiatives and how these new initiatives that we want in this new MOU would probably add further value to both entities. Let us today celebrate the success and look forward to many more years to improve the human conditions and add years of healthy life through a very strong and a very, very fruitful and engaging partnership between Trendlines and as well as a national healthcare group. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric. Prof. Liu, please.
Thank you, Eric. And again, warm welcome, Dr. Ben Seet, Mr. Todd Dollinger, Mr. Johnny Teo, to this renewal of MOU. I think 3 years ago to this date, we inked the original MOU, and I'm very heartened by the progress that we have made. NHG, through its Center of MedTech and Innovation and Trendlines Singapore, we have worked very hard to forge the strong partnership that we have, as Eric has mentioned. This public-private collaboration is important because our clinicians get to share their valuable clinical knowledge. They are able to contextualize the needs of our population and our patients. And then the ability to collaborate on tangible solutions, given the technological expertise, as well as the efficiency of Trendlines' industrial engineering and management process, allows us to ideate and create new solutions. And what is most important is that our patients, our population, benefit from it. And if the population of Singapore benefit and improve their outcome, improve their quality of life, their satisfaction, then we can also spread the technology beyond Singapore to the rest of the world. And on this note, I'm also very grateful to Enterprise Singapore for the support they have accorded to NHG throughout these years, and that has enabled CMTI and our group to forge ahead in terms of developing medical technology and keep pace with the developments around us and around the world. So thank you again that those of you have come here to witness this renewal of the MOU. Over to you, Eunice.
Thank you, Prof. Liu. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Johnny Teo.
Yep, thanks, Eunice. Afternoon, Prof. Liu, Dr. Seet, and also Eric, and also a very good morning to Todd, and also friends from Israel who are dialing in. I'm Johnny from Enterprise Singapore, and I would just like to extend my heartiest congrats to both Trendlines and the National Healthcare Group on the renewal of this wonderful partnership. I understand this achievement is by no means coincidental. There's a lot of painstaking efforts behind in trying to combine Trendlines' commercialization and investment expertise with that of the clinical excellence from NHG, which both Eric and Prof. Thomas talked about. I'm sure the journey has not been without its challenges, though it's heartening to note the value both institutions see in each other and the desire to remain steadfast in the road ahead. Such partnerships between incubators, investors, and clinical institutions is a strong capability and advantage we've observed in more mature ecosystems like the US and Israel. For Singapore to be a successful medtech hub, we will need to foster and deepen more of these so that new opportunities may be unlocked for the increasingly vibrant pool of medtech companies and the community here, which just now both speakers have talked about. With multiple stakeholders coming together to combine their resources and expertise, we believe that innovations will have the best chance of success and ultimately create the maximum impact and value to the healthcare ecosystem. With that, I congratulate both Trendlines and the NHG again and look forward to more exciting developments from your collaborations in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Dr. Benjamin Seed, please.
First of all, a very good afternoon to my colleagues here in Singapore, as well as my friends in Israel. I think I'm going to keep my talk really very brief because much of what I've said has already been covered. But say that over the years, I've actually participated in quite a number of MOUs and contract signings. But today's MOU between Trendlines as well as NHG is one that is particularly exciting to me. And if you really think about it, Singapore has in various rankings been identified as one of the leading biotech innovation countries globally, while Israel is obviously very well renowned for its startup culture and innovation capacity. So when you put the two together, I think this is a very potent combination. The numbers speak for themselves, spinning out within 3 years, a total of 9 medtech and health technology companies. I think that's no mean feat. And it reflects not only the clinical excellence here at NHG, as well as our rising research intensity, but also how a partnership with a company like Trendlines has multiplied the innovation capacity and capital to develop solutions that will benefit patients. I congratulate the teams that have worked hard over the years to make all this possible. And I look forward to more years of very successful and fruitful partnership between Trendlines and NHG. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. C. Last but not least, Todd, please.
Thanks, Eunice. Greetings from Israel. It's a wonderful pleasure to be here today, and I thank Dr. C, Prof. Liu, of course, my colleague, Eric Lowe, who has done so much of the work in bringing this relationship together. But I especially want to mention, if I may, Johnny Teo, the support that we receive, both for our partnership between NHG and Trendlines and for all that we do in Singapore at Trendlines. We greatly appreciate the support of Singapore and specifically Enterprise Singapore. Our thanks to all. It's really wonderful to be here today to talk for these few minutes because what we're talking about is partnership. And partnership is the most important reason why Trendlines has succeeded, because we partner with inventors, with investors, with entrepreneurs, and those who are at the cutting edge of science and technology, as our friends at NHG are. Partnership is the cornerstone of our success, whether in Israel or in China or in Singapore. It's been 3 years together, and it's often said that beginnings are difficult, but our first MOU with NHG 3 years ago has clearly and truly resulted in tangible success in terms of numbers of companies collaborating together and with our work with the physicians of NHG. We've completed 3 years together, successfully getting past the beginnings are difficult period, and we've achieved much. And today we're pleased and proud to announce the continuation of the successful efforts of these 3 years and to continue our collaboration together and to lead to more solutions and the development of more companies together. This partnership has created a strong alignment, not just of thought, but of actions. And this is what it takes to succeed. And our work together has been not bound by the limits of an MOU, but rather by the shared belief that what we agreed to do together could only be the minimum of what we would achieve. And indeed, our work together has resulted not just in a new MOU, but in so much more. Our work together has proven that much can be achieved, much more can be achieved by working together than by working alone. More can be achieved with good communications, and more can be achieved when there is a common mission to which we are all dedicated to improve the human condition. And going forward, we are working on the establishment of focus groups. And together with NHG's executives, we're brainstorming areas of clinical focus and knowledge exchange and merging the clinical with the commercial, as was said, private-public partnerships. This is the great opportunity. These groups will target burgeoning clinical needs and extend into areas such as aging-related problems, dermatology, chronic disease management, orthopedics and spine, and more. And we'll leverage on our worldwide network to facilitate exchange of knowledge in these fields. Our work together makes us stronger where we are weak and makes us greater where we are strong. In July of 2020, Trendlines Medical Singapore established Trendlines Labs Singapore, our Singapore-based in-house innovation center to support medical innovation in the Singapore ecosystem. Here we are dealing with product conceptualization and product development. And Trendlines Labs Singapore, strong in its own right, is not alone in its efforts to deliver solutions to startups and innovative projects in Singapore. The Singapore team works closely with our Trendlines Labs teams in China and at our home base in Israel. And our aim is to curate solutions with the collective talents from across all 3 countries, across our Trendlines teams, and in partnership, of course, with our friends at NHG. I understand that Trendlines Labs Singapore is already engaged in discussions with NHG, with the physicians to provide technical development opportunities with the intention of streamlining lab to market processes and to develop solutions that will support upstream research. I am pleased and encouraged by what we've already achieved together, and I'm confident that we've only begun to succeed together. I think it was Churchill, in a somewhat different context, admittedly, who spoke of being at the end of the beginning rather than at the beginning of the end. That's certainly where I see Trendlines and NHG today with the support of Enterprise Singapore. And it's a wonderful place to be because we have a long and successful future to look forward to for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, everyone. Now we shall proceed to the signing of the MOU by Todd and Prof. Liu. May I request the rest of the speakers to turn off their videos for now. Let us give them a few moments to do the signing, and please hold up the MOU document once you are done. Okay, Todd is ready. Okay. Thanks. Yes, okay. Okay, Prof. Liu, perhaps you would like to move to the left a little? Yeah, closer to the screen, yes. And Todd as well, maybe a little bit closer to the screen so that we can proceed to take a picture. Yes, that's right. Okay, let's proceed to take a picture, which will be none other than in the form of a screenshot in this digital age. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, and smile. Okay, great. Now, I would like to invite the rest of the speakers to join Todd and Prof. Liu to take a group photo together. Kindly turn on your videos, please. Okay, so everyone in the camera, good. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, and smile. Perfect. Congratulations and wishing both organizations many years of continued successful partnerships ahead.
Thank you, Eunice.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we shall move on to the Q&A segment. A reminder to post your questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of the panel. Over the past few days, we have been collating questions from the press and attendees of the MOU ceremony on top of questions coming in at this moment. So the first question is directed to both Trendlines and the National Healthcare Group. The question is, could you share more about the collaboration process and how the development projects are initiated? Do the physicians approach Trendlines with their clinical needs first, or does Trendlines seek physicians' input with an existing product concept? Perhaps you could have a representative from Trendlines to answer first.
Thank you, Eunice. And let me perhaps take a start on this particular question. Indeed, I guess if you look at how many of our projects have started, it didn't take one mode to say, it comes or it must come from the physician, or that it must come from the thought leader of the engineers running the companies. In fact, it is a very much of a hybrid model that we see that has led to the successful 9 companies. Some of this are really what existing clinical problems that physicians may face, for which we jointly look at solutions that are viable, and obviously developing the solutions through the engineering expertise in a company, leading to the prototyping, testing, and clinical validation. One such company, of course, is Medulla Pro. And of course, we do see the other spectrum for which an idea in this case really, become possible. And that's where we work with the team in NHG to look at how some of these ideas can be further curated so that the solutions can be very palatable for clinical use. And again, when it comes to this, I guess having a very strong clinical background combined with the innovation spirit or the innovative spirits among the clinicians has certainly been really, really helpful for us to get to a point where the solutions can be jointly developed. Maybe Prof. Liu, you might want to add a little about from your perspective too.
Thanks very much, Eric. Yeah, so I fully agree. I think that innovation is very important to our healthcare family, be they doctors, therapists, nursing, and other professionals. And what we've done in the last couple of years is to establish a very important facilitation process through our build-up of a team in CMTI that helps engage our clinicians and then facilitate the collaboration of partnerships with companies such as Trendline, as well as other institutions of research and academia, and then facilitate this co-development of these solutions. And sometimes we are the ones that come up with an idea, and other times it is the industry that has created an idea that may not come from healthcare, but may have come from a parallel technological innovation, right, in other parts of the spectrum of the sectors. And then by coming together, I think we foster an inquiry spirit, and then we are also able to then take this through a process that is quite disciplined, needs finding, establishing the partnerships, and then looking at whether this particular project or this idea has been done before or it hasn't, or is something very new, and then developing that ideation and taking it further. And then as you take something in healthcare further, you have to think now about the issues of safety, about regulation, about governance, and about whether it is an important problem to solve or not. And if so, then the idea of working with Trendline over the past 3 years of being able to move very quickly, right, from an idea into a prototype into a trial, and then trying to make a difference to the world. I think this is what has been our experience. And I think that it has been a learning journey for us as much as we have benefited as well as contributed to this knowledge of innovation and enabling medical technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric and Matthew. Okay, so the next question is directed at NHG. The question is, how do you see this partnership creating value for the hospital and their patients?
Okay, maybe I'll take this, Ben. I think that the National Healthcare Group has, for the longest time, as part of public healthcare in Singapore, understood that the future of healthcare in Singapore is transcending what we currently do, to be able to move from healthcare to health, right? To move from hospitals to the community, and then to create value for the population and lower the overall cost of healthcare. And I think that our clinicians constantly, right, as they deliver care, they're thinking about what are the problems that needs to be solved. And that's why for us, we are trying to deliver care across a few areas of focus. Firstly is the focus in which we are academically strong and capable, but the other is in areas in which we want to, for example, improve productivity and our ability to scale solutions in the light of a smaller population in Singapore and an aging population. Secondly, we want to make sure that it's not just the patient, but the community that benefits from some of the innovations that we want to focus on. Of course, it is important that we add the next level of improved outcome to patients, to individuals, so that they themselves feel as though care around the world, the technology is improving their personal lives. And then we want to be able to exploit the smartness of technology as the world moves along, digitalization, the ability to very rapidly transfer what was a very manual process into something that is very rapid, whether it's diagnosis, whether it's treatment, whether it's communications. And so in that light, whatever we do with TrendCare, we do it with the mindset that this will ultimately benefit Singapore, the population of Singapore, as well as our patients. And so far, it's been fully aligned.
Thank you, Prof. Liu. Okay, so the next question is, how important do you think it is for clinicians to work with startups at the early stages of development? For this question, we shall have the chance to hear from the 3 portfolio companies, Medulla Pro, Interval, and SZONE Medical, and their principal investigators joining the MOU session today. Perhaps I could start off with sharing some perspectives as the business development manager from Trendlines, working closely with all the companies. At the onset of development, we greatly encourage clinicians' involvement in clinical development work to ensure that the startup's product is viable and relevant to clinical practice. Hence, the intention at Trendlines to establish partnerships for clinicians from the National Healthcare Group or other institutions to work closely with every single one of our portfolio company to leverage the relevant clinical expertise. I'll let the 3 companies elaborate more on their experience. So for the companies, kindly turn on your videos and introduce yourselves before answering the questions. I'd like to invite their clinical advisors and PIs as well to join in. Okay, maybe we could have SZONE to start off.
Yes, hi everyone. This is Ivan, the project manager from SZONE Medical. We are developing a hydration monitoring device that is easy to use, accurate, and non-invasive. And we are really happy to be working with Dr. Violet Hoon, consultant cardiologist from Tan Tock Seng Hospital. Dr. Violet is the principal investigator for our upcoming clinical study. And I think this partnership, working together with clinicians, is really extremely important, because the number one priority for startups is really product market fit. How does the device, how does what we are developing fulfill patient needs? And I think working with Dr. Violet has helped us to continually improve our product and our value proposition, and ultimately help the patients. So actually, I'd like to ask Dr. Violet for her thoughts as well.
Hi, so I totally agree with Ivan. In addition to that, I would like to add that I think having clinicians involved in the early development actually helps to provide a clinical perspective and also individualize the innovative solution to the patient's needs and not let it go tangent to it. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. The other two companies? Medulla Pro?
Yep. Hi, good afternoon and good morning to all guests and attendees. My name is Desmond So. I'm the Senior Product Development Engineer of Medulla Pro Technology. Medulla Pro is developing a real-time ultrasound guidance lumbar puncture device that aims to improve on the success rate of the procedure. We do that by providing real-time visual guidance during implant needle insertion. The company has the privilege to work with Dr. Bin Wen-Xian and Dr. Fan Bing Wen, usually from the National Healthcare Group, and has benefited in many ways. Most notable is their continuous involvement in the discussion, evaluation, and the review of the prototypes. This allows the company to better develop our device to fit the targeted landscape. And perhaps I could get Dr. Bin and Dr. Fan to actually give more views on their perspective.
Hi, Wen Xian here. Yeah, so I'm working on Medulla Pro. It's been a pleasure working with Trendlines, and I have to say it's been a very nurturing environment that NHG has created for us to work together. So I think the answer to the question is very obvious. It's very important to be involved very early on, because it actually makes the whole process more efficient. We get each party looks at it from a different perspective. So from a clinician's point of view, we also get to understand the commercial constraints that the companies face in bringing a product to fruition. So sometimes we need to temper our ideas accordingly. And it's also very exciting to be involved in cutting edge technology, where we get the opportunity to actually set new trends by creating new products, because typically we would tend to be at the receiving end. And of course, sometimes we have grouses about certain products that we get that may not fully factor in the clinician's inputs. Yeah, perhaps Eugene, you have any comments?
Thanks, Wen Xian. Just like to congratulate Trendlines as well as NHG for a very successful MOU, and also for this very precious partnership. Really, as healthcare workers, you know, for the problems that we face in the clinical aspects, we can only dream of the solutions, but really, I think Trendlines translates this into a tangible as well as realistic solution for us. So it's really a precious partnership that I realized over the last 2 years that we've been working with Desmond, Eric, and of course, Prof. Liu and CMTI. The thing is, this is a paradigm shift for our product. Really, this because, you know, lumbar punctures are done currently most of the time as a manual blind bedside procedure. And it's very dependent on the skill of the doctor and the procedurist. But what this partnership and this project has done is that it translates by using a device, real-time ultrasound, so that we can achieve a low margin of error and increase safety for our patients. So once again, I'd like to congratulate the organizations, NHG and Trendlines, and thank you for the immense support that we've been getting as clinicians. Over to you, Eunice.
Thank you, Dr. Wen Xian and Dr. Eugene. Okay, how about Interval? I'd like to hear from you.
Hi, yes, my name is Simon. I'm the project manager for Interval. Interval is developing a new generation urinary catheter, which we call UroGuardian, which is intended to address the problem of catheter-associated urinary tract infection. Basically, this is a infection that patients will get in the course of getting other treatment, and it's of course something that was wants to be avoided. And it's important to address because it is people do die because of it, and in addition to that, it does create an excess cost burden not only to the patients but also to the payers as well as providers. So all around, it's quite an important problem to address. And so for us, we've been working with Dr. Shum Chuk Fen from Khoo Teck Puat Hospital here in Singapore. And I would say our collaboration with him has been important in a number of ways. I mean, of course, there is a new aspect that we're developing a new device with new functionality that is intended to bring to help bring improvement to the current care practices. And so there's his guidance in these new ground that we are trying to break. But there's also the consideration that our company particularly, we are improving on an existing device. There's a long list of product requirements that, even though our product seems mundane, it's actually quite complicated. And any failure in anything from, say, a leak to difficult to use packaging basically makes the product unpalatable for the doctors. And this gets to the product market fit Ivan brought up earlier. You know, it's not just about what the patient's needs are, it's about what the doctors and the hospitals themselves need, because the needs are different and they are not obvious. And we do need to speak to experts like Dr. Shum to truly understand that. Dr. Shum, do you have any further thoughts to add?
Yeah, thank you very much, Simon. I'm Dr. Shum, consultant urologist from Woodlands Health Campus. And I must say that I really enjoyed the last couple of years of working together with Simon and his team from Innovalve, designing a new catheter. As a urologist, I've been managing many patients that actually needs a catheter, and I see a lot of them in a dilemma. On one hand, they need a catheter, otherwise they can't pass urine. And on the other hand, they suffer from repeated episodes of infection that's related to catheter use. And when we take a look at the design of the urinary catheter, it has not changed much for the last many decades. So it was really exciting when Innovalve came up with an idea of revamping the structural build of the urinary catheter with the intention to target, to aim for the reduction of catheter-associated infection based really hitting at the root causes. So I think that was a very exciting idea, and really thankful for the opportunity for me to be part of the team. I think regarding question about engaging clinicians as well as startup companies early, I fully agree with what Wenxian and Violet has mentioned earlier on, that it is important for us to engage them as early as possible, so that the clinician can provide information on the gaps in current clinical practices and why is it that these gaps are not filled despite the evolution in healthcare, and what has been done to fill these gaps. And then the startup companies will come with the administrative and engineering know-hows to try to come up with a product that actually can fill these gaps. So it is a very close collaboration. It is a little bit like two hands of the clock. And I think that hopefully with such close collaborations, we can come up with products that truly translate into patients' benefit. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Dr. Shum. Thank you all for the insights. In the interest of time, let's move on to our final question. So the question is, what areas of growth do both parties hope to see in the next few years compared to the first 3 years of the MOU? Perhaps we could have representatives from both Trendlines and the National Healthcare Group to share their views.
Eunice, I'll take a quick run at that. There are clearly certain areas that we see today that are obvious, and that has to do with anything that brings forward the use of big data and the acquisition of those data and providing this information through artificial intelligence or otherwise to clinicians. So this is an area of great interest to us. The industry is talking more about it. And of course, the clinicians with whom we speak talk about this every day, about the value that can be brought. We see today in the field of robotics being used throughout the operating room. There's no question that the use of robotics will increase. We hope in a good and sensible way. And we work to be part of that. Everything that has to do with bringing technology to the surgeons, to the clinicians, we'll continue to look at that. And specific focus areas for us, you heard today a bit about urology. Urology has been always an important area of investment for Trendlines. We continue to see importance. We continue to see value that we can bring, and by partnering with the clinicians of NHG. And as well, orthopedics and spine, another important area of investment for Trendlines. We also expect that we will, I'm sorry, I have a new phone, which I don't quite know how to use. I knew how to turn off my mobile phone, how to turn off my desk phone. I'm still learning. So as you can see, there are always opportunities to learn in the interface between people and technology. And with that, I'll turn it back.
Okay, maybe I'll take the question from NHG's perspective. I think here at NHG, we are refining our research strategy in line with our National Centers of Medical Excellence. We have the National Centers for Skin and Dermatology, for Infectious Diseases and Mental Health, as well as in certain areas which we think there are huge unmet medical needs, specifically in terms of managing rehab, as well as frailty in the elderly, as well as mental health and metabolic health in the general population. So in all of these areas, I think there are many opportunities where we see a convergence of not just the medical need, but where research, where innovation, where enterprise can actually come in to fill some of these gaps. So I think we see that the partnership with Trendlines, I think Todd has mentioned digital health, digital technologies, analytics as an important driver for medtech and health tech development in the coming future. We see that there's a very clear convergence of such technologies with the healthcare needs that we have identified. And we'll see perhaps more topical thematic partnerships. And as an outcome, an endpoint, I think we want to see more companies. So we've had 9 in the past 3 years. Perhaps we'll have 10 more, or maybe even 20 more in the next 3. We'll see. And with that, Eunice, I pass it back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Seet. Thank you all for the excellent responses. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all your questions. It seems we are running out of time. We will consolidate the rest of the questions from the audience and respond separately. We have now come to the end of the MOU ceremony. Thank you everyone for your time and have a pleasant afternoon.